Hi everyone, welcome back to this series of Agile PMP questions for your exam. Great for practicing or even great for testing your knowledge within your team just for a little bit of fun. But these questions will seriously help you prepare for your exam, and also the way that the exam questions are structured. They've really helped me, and they've helped hundreds and hundreds of other people watching them throughout the last couple of months. Let's check them out. Large-scale Scrum, or less, aims to organize several development teams toward a common goal by extending the Scrum method across teams. So, we all know Scrum. We've got our daily stand-ups, and we've got our iteration planning, and we've got our retrospectives and all the other ceremonies. But now we're doing that across multiple teams across the organization. So what is not one of the similarities between large-scale Scrum and normal Scrum? Okay, this is going to be good. Let's check it out. Okay. And let's look at the normal Scrum methodology. Maybe that will give us a few tips here. So one single product backlog, that's probably right. We want that in normal Scrum. One definition of done for all teams. That could be correct as well. We definitely want a definition of done in Scrum. Valuing individuals over results. It's a little bit strange, that one, because we want both, really, don't we? We want individuals, yes, 100%, but we also want results. If we're not getting results, then why are we doing this in the first place? This one's a bit of an iffy one for me. Let's see what the last one's like. One potentially shippable product increment at the end of each sprint. And that is so powerful. That's 100% yes for that one. So the only iffy one here is C, and only because we want both. Really, we want results and valuing our individuals as well. Let's go with answer C. There it is. Large-scale Scrum has many similarities to normal Scrum, extended across teams. They include one single product backlog, one definition of done for all teams, complete cross-functional teams. Oh, so that's good. That's where we've got our T-shaped people, remember? So with a wide range of expertise, but one deep expertise. These are the generalizing specialists in our team. One product owner and one potentially shippable product increment at the end of each sprint. And if you're continually shipping small increments, no matter how small, but as long as they are usable, that is the most powerful thing. And I've seen it work so many times in the real world. And that's why Agile actually, truly works. It's not just a methodology. That was a good one to start with. All right, let's get into the next one. And it's another one on less, which is even better. So this is great. These are our auxiliary frameworks, our scaling frameworks about Agile, which are still extremely important and important to use when you put this into an organization, when you're using it across multiple projects. So it aims to organize several development teams towards a common goal by extending Scrum across teams. Which of the techniques below were not added to Scrum to create less? Okay, what was not added to Scrum? All right, sprint planning, more formally divided into two parts, what and how. Okay, so that's not a part of Scrum, but it is, that could have been added, what and how. In sprint planning, usually it's just a product backlog, isn't it? So that's a maybe. Let's see what else we've got. One single product release with no stakeholder feedback allowed. Well, this one just stands out like a sore thumb, doesn't it? Because what's the point of Agile? It is to get stakeholder feedback. And why do we get stakeholder feedback? Because by getting that, we get their buy-in, and we make sure that we're delivering the product that they actually wanted. And you know what? Sometimes customers or the business or whoever we're delivering value to will give us requirements, and then when they see something in use, they're like, oh, I didn't actually want it that way after all, because now they can see it. It changes the entire game. Anyway, all of that to say, this one is probably the one that we're looking at here. Overall cross-team refinement, yes. Organic cross-team coordination, 100%. Cross self-forming teams we want in Agile, so around a product that people care about or that they're involved in, really important. Overall retrospective focused on cross-team improvements. Absolutely for that one as well. So the incorrect answer for this one, let's go with answer B. There it is. Large-scale Scrum adds techniques to Scrum to create a method that scales across teams. It's a scaling method and the organization. Added techniques include sprint planning with what and how. Now that's really interesting. Overall cross-team refinement, cross-team coordination, cross-team retrospective, and don't forget that shippable increment every iteration if it's possible. It's quite hard to do and quite hard to pull off, but that's what we're aiming for. A project with a single release is a waterfall project, as we know, or a predictive style of project management. Great stuff, guys. Let's get into the next one. Okay, you're working on a project with clear procedures based on past projects. The product is clear and the risks are fairly well known as the organization has done this before, which is true from the below. Wow, this sounds good. And if it's low risk and low change, what can we use? Well, we don't have to use Agile in this case because it's not a high change environment. Agile is used to respond to change. And if we don't have to do that, we can use a predictive or a waterfall method. So that is a really key piece of information. So it's definable work, so you can choose a predictive project lifecycle. Well, there we go. That's exactly what we were talking about. I'm pretty sure that might be the one that we're looking at. It's definable work, so you can choose Agile. Well, if it's changeable work, that's when we use Agile, isn't it? So, or high uncertainty, there you go. So high uncertainty, you can use incremental. High uncertainty, you can use iterative. Yes, potentially true. We both get, with incremental, we put all of that feedback back into the product and we have one release. And with an iterative project lifecycle, we release in features, just exactly as that large scale Scrum was saying, the potentially shippable product once every iteration if we can help it. All of that to say, the answer I think we're going for is answer A here. And when the situation is fairly definable and well known, and the risks are also fairly well known, you can choose a predictive project lifecycle that plans most of the project upfront and in one single release, because there's lower risk. Now, in the real world, when we actually get to doing this, usually the risks pop up, don't they? So I think that's where we get hybrid approaches, a little bit of waterfall and a little bit of agile, or a little bit of incremental or iterative project lifecycle approaches combined. And that's life, you know, that's where change happens. That's why we use them. All right, that was great. Let's get into the next one. You are an agile project manager leading a project team who is used to a waterfall way of work. Very common. The project sponsor wants to plan the entire project upfront so they can see when the project will be delivered. You tell them that Agile uses adaptive planning. Why might this be a better alternative? Okay, wow, this is good. This is one. So good scenario-based question here. So adaptive planning allows the project sponsor to adapt to the project plan over time. So the project sponsor to adapt to the project plan. No. So definitely not. I don't even know what to say. It just doesn't make sense. We'll go back to that one. So let's put a cross there for now. But the project sponsor shouldn't have to adapt, basically. So the idea behind waterfall and Agile is that the project sponsor has a need for business value, and we're trying to deliver that value by any means necessary, basically. So the best means necessary, given the circumstances. So yeah, that's why. So adaptive planning allows the team to deliver usable features while continually reprioritizing the next pieces based on business value. Well, that's exactly what we're talking about, isn't it? Okay. Well, we have a habit of doing this lately. We actually answer the question just before we get there. So that's what our adaptive planning helps us do. And we're delivering value, but then we're also reprioritizing the next most valuable piece of things that we're going to deliver for the business or for the customer. And that's why it's so powerful. So adaptive planning ensures that users can adapt to the product. And again, the users are not adapting to the product. We're trying to deliver the value for the users. Adaptive planning is stable after the prototype is complete. Also not true. Because things happen, life happens. Even if you create a prototype, someone uses it and says that's great. Once they get their hands on it, things could change again. And that's why we need to be open to that feedback and open to change in an agile methodology. All right, let's go with answer B. And there it is. Adaptive planning allows the project sponsor to receive incremental value delivered as features. And as those features, they can be reprioritized by the product owner throughout the life of the project so that we're continuously delivering the value that they actually want. And there's a little joke in there that, that many waterfall projects start out as predictive planned and end up as adaptive planned when the schedule and cost projections are not met and they need to adjust. And yes, that definitely happens all the time. All right, great stuff, guys. These are really good questions today, so I hope you're enjoying them as much as I am. You're a Scrum Master and you're about to begin a new iteration in your Agile project. New features have been added to the backlog, and the team are unsure which of those features to work on next. How will you guide the product owner and the team when analyzing the next priority? And the product owner is our main person to represent the customer or the business or whoever we're delivering value to, and they're the one who prioritizes that backlog of work or features or stories to deliver those features. So they need to say, this is number one, this is number two, this is number three, and what is going to give the business or the customer the most value. So with that in mind, analyze the value of each feature with the product owner versus the effort and the risk. Oh, and that's so powerful, because if something has a high priority, it has a high value, but let's say it's going to take 5 years to create. Okay, all of a sudden we need to say, maybe there's a better thing that we can get in 2 weeks instead, and it's just slightly less value. So these are the things that we need to weigh up, the value versus the effort, or the value versus the risk. That one sounds great. This one I really, really like because of that. And that's what the product owner will have to do, looking at the value versus risk all the time and weighing that up all the time. Focus on the shortest tasks first so you can deliver quickly. That's not too bad, but not as good as this one. Choose to deliver the entire project at the end. That's a waterfall one. And by asking customers what they want delivered first, potentially, but the product owner is our guide there, so they liaise with the customer and the business, whoever we're delivering value to, and then they're responsible for that priority. So let's go with answer A here, and there it is. While value is typically determined by features that customers want, the priority is ultimately decided by the product owner, who represents the customer or the business and constantly grooms and prioritizes the backlog of features. Just as important is developing high-risk items and considering the development effort versus the benefit. It doesn't get much better than that. That's exactly what we said. Well done, guys. All right, let's go on to the next question. You are doing great. You are coaching some of the team members who are new to Agile, and someone asks what you mean when you say a time box. What will you tell them? And this is the sort of thing that comes up on the Agile exam, so Agile Certified Practitioner as well. So some of this seems basic, but it will come up and you will be tested on it. It is a period of time in which certain work is completed, such as an iteration. I really like that one. It is a period of time where we complete certain work. Let's see what the other ones are. It's time spent on a retrospective, not necessarily. A time box could be about anything. It is time taken to complete the project, with the box representing the finished product. Oh, isn't that clever? No, not that one. So, I like that answer, but it's not that. Because a time box, again, could be anything. Could be about a spike, where we're trying to figure out or solve a problem. Or it could be an iteration, or it could be any other piece of work, a time boxed, so that we're not spending too long on it. And why do we time box things? Really quickly, because of Parkinson's law. Have you ever heard of Parkinson's law? It's where the task or the project or the work expands to fill the time that we've allotted to it. So if we give something 3 months, if we say, hey Billy, can you finish this off in 3 months? And even though it's like a really small thing to do, they're probably going to take 3 months and wait all the way up to the end of the 3 months to finish it off. Have you ever waited until the last minute to study for an exam? That is Parkinson's law. But you're not doing that because you're here with me studying for this exam. So well done, you're doing great. All right, last one. It's the effort assigned to a story card. Okay, no, it's not the effort. That is our basically the points, story card points, which turns into our team velocity. And the team velocity is how we figure out how much we can complete in an iteration. All of that to say, let's go with answer A. There it is. While effort or time on a story card may be time boxed, the best example of that is an iteration. Usually around 2 weeks, an iteration is a time box that delivers a feature or part of a feature that a customer can see, feel, or touch. Yeah, absolutely. That was really good. Wow, these questions are great today. All right, only a couple to go, so you're doing really well. While on an Agile project team, you prioritize the backlog of features with the product owner. That's really good practice to do. And agree what you will work on first. The project sponsor wants to know how long it will take to deliver some of this value. Oh, this is a really good question. How will you estimate how long each of these features will take to complete? And this is exactly the sort of thing that you will see on the exam. It's scenario based, and it's specifically about a problem in the real world where people are asking how long it's going to take to deliver value. And we have to come up with these answers. So this is really, really good. All right, let's see what we've got here. So break down the feature into tasks or user stories, then estimate how long those tasks will take to complete with the development team. Yeah, I mean, again, that one's really good. The reason being is because Agile looks at estimating from the bottom up. So there are typically, on your PMP exam, there are a couple of different estimating techniques. There's 3-point estimating, where we give a pessimistic, optimistic, and a most likely, and then we get the average of those. There's analogous, where we use an analogy, so something similar. So is there a project similar, or is there a story card similar? And we use that to estimate. Or there's parametric, where we use a parameter. And a parameter is, like 3 meters, $3 per meter, or $100 an hour. A parameter per unit of measure, basically. And that's how we use to estimate. But the last one, of course, is called bottom-up estimating, where we take all of the smallest increments, for example, story cards, and we estimate on those individually, and they feed up into, for example, a feature that we're delivering. And by doing all of those individually, now we have a really good estimate for that particular feature. It's bottom-up estimating. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying, but you will need to know that sort of thing for the exam, and that's why answer A is so good for this one. So the other ones, take the total number of people in the team, multiplied by hours worked, divided by the number of features. Even though that sounds fancy and complicated, that's not the right answer, and that's a good reason for your good analogy for your life as well. The most complicated answer is not necessarily the best answer as well. Ask the project sponsor how many iterations the project's funded for, and then plan to that. No, that might happen in the real world, where we might just keep going until the money runs out, or the project is reprioritized. But for this circumstances of this in an Agile team, we want bottom-up estimating. Find a similar feature delivered by another part of the organization and use that as the estimate. That's our analogous estimating. So we're using an analogy or something similar. While that can work, and you may use that to estimate on your cards, in this case, it's not the best answer, because we're wanting to get an idea of the feature. And basically this will give us the best idea by using points and feeding those back up into the feature. So all of that to say, let's go with answer A. And there it is. Agile favors a bottom-up approach to estimating, where the work is broken down to give its lowest level, typically a user story, and estimated by the development team. And the testers will need to be involved here, and business analysts potentially, and the Scrum Master will facilitate, but all of those people will have an input into how much work they think is in the card. So the whole development team, the whole team will need to do this, which this will give you your estimate of the effort and time required to complete the feature. Wow, that was really good. I hope you enjoyed that one. That was a really, really good question. All right, only 2 to go, I think. 2 or 3 to go, guys. Really, really great work. You're working with an Agile team on your first iteration. The feature has been chosen by the product owner, and the team breaks it down into user stories to work on. What is a user story? This is really good. So a feature of functionality small enough to be completed in 1 to 3 days. Definitely that one. That's what and sometimes we get user stories that are big. So it might be 20 days, and we want to try and so it's a big piece of work. Can we break that into smaller cards and then assign them smaller values so that we can complete it in 1 to 3 days? That's the power of small increments of work, and then those will feed up into the feature. And again, that combats, so that gets rid of Parkinson's law, because we're not taking 3 months and we're not waiting until the last minute and we're not studying, just the night before our exam, right? So, that's why we use small units and small measures where we can. So I like that one too. All right, a description of the feature from the viewpoint of the customer. That is also pretty good. That's actually a pretty good one. A story about the end user, so the team understands the feature completely. That's also sort of pretty good, because a lot of the acceptance criteria will be done from the customer's point of view. For example, as a customer, I want something so I can do something else, so I can get my shopping cart, or so I can get something delivered, for example. And that's our business-driven development, or a BDD. But what is a user story? Is it a prioritized backlog? It's definitely not the prioritized backlog itself. So user stories will make up the prioritized backlog. Out of all of these, I really like the piece of functionality small enough to be completed in 1 to 3 days. Even though all the others are correct, the best one for an actual story card itself. The other ones really describe acceptance criteria, probably. So let's go to answer A. All right, that's great. So a user story is the smallest unit of work in an agile team, a task that can be completed in 1 to 3 days. If the task will take longer, it's common to try and break it into 2 or more pieces to accommodate that user story rule, exactly as we were saying. Wow, we're getting pretty good at this, aren't we? I think you guys are going to be well prepared for your exam. And now we've got 2 to go. Here's the second to last one. You've begun working on a new project in the organization, in a new organization, and the project team mentions you are working in an iterative project environment. How do you know you're working within an iterative project lifecycle? Okay, this is a project lifecycle one. You will see this sort of thing on your PMP exam. The team iterates around one idea to make sure that it's right. No, even though we're using the word iterating, it's not that one. You're improving the product or result through successive prototypes or proofs of concept. Yes, absolutely. And what is iterative? So iterative, we have one release at the end still. So don't be fooled. It's just like a waterfall approach. And yet what we're doing is we're having successive prototypes, and we're getting that feedback, and then we're getting that feedback, and we're getting that feedback, and then ultimately we have a happy customer at the end because we got all of that feedback and then released in one go. So that's your iterative approach. And as we know, Agile combines iterative and incremental approaches. So we're iterating and getting feedback, but we're also delivering in increments or features along the way as well. So that's your Agile approach. All right, I think B is probably our best one here. The project sponsor says the project lifecycle is iterative. So if the project sponsor says so, that doesn't actually make it so. We might be doing things differently, and organizations will do things differently. They will tailor the approach to suit them. You are using agile sprints or iterations to manage your work. Even if we're doing that, that doesn't make it an iterative lifecycle. So as we've seen, we need to be getting that feedback. That's our iterative lifecycle. So let's go with answer B. There it is. So it uses successive prototypes or proofs of concept to gather feedback and then release in one go. Well done, guys. We're up to the last one. You've made it. And that's 10 questions. I mean, that's a huge amount of questions. Well done. Let's see what we've got. And it's my favorite. It's my absolute favorite. It's the Agile Manifesto questions. So this is the high level where Agile came from. In 2001, a group of individuals representing the most widely used lightweight software development methodologies at the time agreed on a common set of values and principles that became known as the Agile Manifesto. Which of the following is one of the Agile Manifesto's core values? These are my favorite. And these will feed into everything that we do from an Agile perspective. Developing as much as possible to see what gets the best result. I mean, that's okay, but it's not one of the values of Agile. It's more about collaboration and feedback and change. So let's see what else we've got. Finding a product owner over finding a development team. Again, no, not really. That's sort of more in the detail, but both of those are important. Cross-functional team members over executive buy-in. Again, probably both of those are important as well. Well, let's see what the last one is. Responding to change. Oh, and that's exactly what we were saying. Responding to change over following a plan. That means that following a plan is still important. However, we value responding to change a little bit more than following a plan. Why is that important? Because of all the reasons that we've just been over in this question set. For example, the customer gets their hands on the product and then they say, oh, that's not actually what I wanted, or this is not what I thought it was going to be like. And that's just what happens in life. We can't see it until we can actually get our hands on it. We can't see all of the things that might go wrong. So answer D is definitely our one here. The Agile Manifesto is made up of 4 core values, one of which values responding to change over following a plan. And you made it, we made it, you've done amazing work, and also you're doing great in preparing for your PMP or your ACP, Agile Certified Practitioner exam. This is such great stuff, and I truly believe that you can pass the exam for all the work that you are putting in. I do believe in you, and I know you can do it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.